Hello. My name is Jonathan Wamback. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have the great grace of introducing you all to a very special author of mine. His name is Pete. I'll let him introduce himself to you with his poetry. If I say so myself, he's quite an amazing poet and writer. Actually, he is the one within me who wrote Laddery and Hreifen. For most of my life, he has been quite silent. Like the rest of my authors, he emerged only after my time spent in the religious community, when I felt safe enough to do so. Some aspects of his existence are private, like what triggers him out. I will share with you here that he enjoys sunbathing, writing poetry, something that I myself, Jonathan, don't like very much at all. Though because of Pete, it has really grown on me. Pete also likes sweets. He likes baklava a lot. So I'll share with you two of the many poems he has written. The first is called The Special Lad. The second is called Feels Like Home. Yeah. So, and I hope you enjoy. So, this is the second poem by Pete. Part of me, an author of mine. And it's called The Special Lad, and it starts, I am so hurt, I am hurt so much, I am so insecure, I have been wounded so much that I look to other men for their approval before I seek a woman, even if they have no interest in that woman. I have been wounded so much that I cannot even avoid standing up. What is the reason for my self-pity? What could cause a wound like this? It's about what's been done to me and how it affects me. You may say that I am lost in my anger, weighed down by bitterness. I'd say you are right, but do me the dignity of listening to my side of the story. See, I wanted more. Could you really blame me? I have withheld my love from the God who created me. I will not even support the part of me who fronts most frequently. I have within me the God-given power to co-create. Socially, I have created many masterpieces, literarily, artistically, cinematically. I've been the author of many successes. A world most are not prepared to comprehend. A consciousness that extends beyond just you or just me, but seeks to unite us all in formal reality. For as much as I have the ability, the grace to create, because of my wounds, I refuse to cooperate. God was so touched by my pain, by my wounds. He has given me the grace and the blessing to co-create. So for many years, whenever I would front, God would recognize me, asking me what I would like to create, in which direction I desired the currents of society to move. I have not yet reached the sorry tale of my wounds. I implore you to bear with me just a little longer. Every time God gave me the grace to create an element of society, in a time well before it came, I would be obedient, and I would create something timeless, something glorious and irreplaceable. But because of the wounds that I had endured and because of my broken heart, I would pass the baton, and I would forfeit ownership. Some voice, whether within me or without, would always try to convince me that it was holy, dignified, and charitable to offer what I had created to somebody less blessed than me. After all, God himself had chosen me. What good are all the blessings in the world when God has chosen me? God knew something that I didn't then. God knew that because of my wounds, worldly blessing would be needed. They would offer consolation to me, not a requisite for my salvation, but necessary for my heart. Blessings would serve to bring my soul out of the sorrow and out of the misery of the childhood traumas which I had endured. I have not yet reached the sorry tale of what wounded me. Will you bear with me? It was all intended for me, and my heart sinks when I think of what I have forfeited in glory. Thinking back on the life God originally wanted for me, I would have conquered the world with truth and with love. I would have ruled the world with an iron rod. Instead, because of trauma and because of shame, I have imprisoned the blessings of God within the simple system of personalities. Even more complex, I imagine, when I speak of many independent and separate consciousnesses existing within a single person. So far, so good. I could begin to sense things in our creation, things that through God's grace I had chosen, drift further and further from God's truth because of the influence of people. One day, still in my childhood, I was creating the future of things, of how everything would be, when God prompted me. Things were falling a little off course, and I tried to correct it all, almost desperately, while simultaneously forfeiting ownership of truths which had come from me, and in a last-ditch effort to save truth in God's creation, to save it from falsity, from heresy, I created a figure who would come to the world many years from then, a figure who would, through his victory, restore sanctity, liberty, and unity to a world burdened by impiety. I always felt unworthy, like my accepting a blessing would deprive someone who deserved it more. What I have come to realize is that it's all grace that has been given to me, whether I accept it or not. I wrote another masterpiece, I said lately. It was the first creation that the identity who fronts most frequently was able to accept, or that I was able to give to him freely. But now the publication of that masterpiece is being hindered because of others' jealousy. So you ask, what are these wounds I speak of? Well, I could talk about the constant humiliation and degradation from my female abusers. I could talk about the fact that my male abusers berated me for feeling attraction and shamed incessantly the fact that my body would react to their abuse. Well, I've come to realize that in spite of how much they pain me, the future is the greatest part of my story. All you need know is that my wounds merited indeed God's mercy and God's pity. What matters now is that this grace is still a part of me, and the future God has in store for me. If you think on it long and hard, little ones, you may be able to remember from a heavenly and childlike consciousness that you too possess this grace, the grace to create the world around. What exists in me exists also in you. I wanted to share with you this little story, which began in sorrow and ends in victory, to show you just how much God cares about you all. It is unmerited suffering that God is moved by. I'm telling you, if you only knew the wounds of my story, you would know why God chose me and what I suffered was for Him. For now, all you need know is that God was also moved by the wounds of my story. But what matters about me is not so much my history, so to speak, the wounds of my story, but rather the grace that exists in my future. I am the personality who is the channel of God's grace in our life. The only way for me to be free is for the one within us who fronts most frequently to accept God's spirit and identity. Alas, how can I accept anyone's pity when God has given me a veritable superpower? Even more complex, I imagine, when I speak of many independent and separate consciousnesses living entirely within a single person. But very few people are blessed to have only one identity. No need to heal, no need to pick up the pieces. It's a veritable superpower, I tell you. Think of what we will be able to accomplish when all these individual parts of me become integrated into the whole of me. There will be no stopping me. You likewise possess these superpowers. When the great heavenly liberty comes, when this figure who is to come comes, you will be taught how to liberate this identity. God bless you all. So, this is a poem by Pete, who is living inside me. He's one of my authors. Um, he's as distinct and as unique as any one of you watching the camera, watching the video right now, as I am from you. But he's as much a part of me as I am. Um, he's a very beautiful and special author. I love him very much. But he wrote a poem, and it's called It's Like Home, and I'd like very much to share with you. So, here it goes. It's like home. I speak. The vast expanse of the ethers unfurls as an open carpet, an unrolled blanket. The stars and the galaxies unwind. A word, and the darkness is struck by the penetrating relief of an unbearable, shameless, and glorious light. It's not a light, it is much more. Its presence is ubiquitous, and it lingers like a shock wave. A moment, an eternal moment, lingers as the stars take shape from gargantuan field of gases. As galaxies collect in the dark expanses, light has entered the void, reaching out into its furthest recesses. As planets join and mold like a biological plaything, it becomes blinding, a matter of time, though time does not matter. There, can you see it? As a whisper in a crowd of celestial angels, as a twinkling reflection of light within a grain of sand along an ocean beach. There, along the edge of what we have created, lies a planet, just a little beautiful and precious rock. It is perfect. We shall make this their home. Is it suitable? I ask. It's perfect, I cry, and I descend upon the rock. I contemplate, I speak. Water is formed. It wells up from the depths of the land. Chaos. The little planet erupts. Its entire face erupts. Water gushes forth and fills the places driven in by celestial wanderers, until the planet is covered over by water. I speak. The land collects and rises up into the sea like crumpled paper. I speak. Growth springs up, until the land is covered green. Glory. Nothing of the sort ever beheld before in the ethers. It's like home, I hear whispered. Not yet, I cried. I contemplate. I speak. Beings crawl up, the most glorious of beings, their size difference as the diversity of the stars above. It is beautiful. It is like home, I hear whispered. Not yet, I cry. Contemplating, I speak. Another being comes to life. This one, though, is different. He is special. He is glorious in a way unique to the others. And I speak. Life enters into him. Life like ours. He is beautiful, and he will be my child. This day I have begotten him. I love him and will protect him. I descend upon the home I have created for him in bodily form. We talk. Every day he speaks to me. It brings me such joy just to get to know my child. Even he, though I have created him, is a mystery to me. All I desire in the midst of all this that I have created is to learn about my child. Tell me the desires of your heart, son, and I will make them true. Still, after a time, I notice a sadness in my son's eyes. At first, he is silent. He doesn't want to hurt me. Gently, even knowing, I encourage him to be honest with me. I desire more, he whispers. Tell me, son, what else could you desire? You have everything that you could wish for. Tell me, what can I do for you? And I will make it true. He awakens from his sorrow, looks into my eyes. I desire another friend, one more like me. So I whisper in response, of all the creatures I have made, do you not see one who could be your friend? I am stifling my tears. Son, I desire to be your friend. I have not, he cried. I contemplated. An idea. My son will surely approve of me now. And I waited for my child to sleep, and I took a part of him, and from this I created one very similar, only contrary, a complementary contrary. She too was beautiful, and I delighted in her. Maybe through the heart of this helper, I will win the heart of my son. It's like home, I heard whispered. Not yet, I cried. Bone of my bone, and flesh of my flesh. I watched in delight as my son woke to see what I had done for him. He praised me. Together they praised me. The celestial affairs put on hold, the attention of angels, and my own undivided attention was upon this innocent and precious pair. But even heaven's glance shied away for an instant, the moment these two became intimate. What joy it brought me to see my children unite in love. For a moment my heavens were accessible to them. My children, I long to give you this feeling always. It's like home, I heard whispered. Not yet, I cried. Silently stepping back, the partner, the woman, grew large. It was how I had created them. It brought me joy when she gave birth to a child. I watched, delighting as the family grew more and more united. Like a little heaven, the perfection was glorious. The angelic hosts resounded in cries of triumph. It's like home, I heard whispered. Not yet, I cried. Taking the man aside, I whisper in his ear, walking together side by side, under some trees in the garden. I said to him, of everything available to you, son, you must resist only from this one thing. You ask, my child, and it manifests reality immediately. All that I ask is that you do not express your love for your child in the way that you know your partner. It is a different kind of love that they need. They need to be protected, provided for, blessed. I have seen the confusion that will arise if this happens. The child will become overwhelmed and on an island to navigate this confusion completely alone. You must promise that you will treat your child like I have respected you. With the same love that I have shown you, show your child. The man was visibly moved and disturbed. You must also tell your partner what I have said. This is essential. Lowering his head, the man nodded earnestly. And so I left them. And all was wonderful. The angelic host rejoices. I took a step back, and heaven's glance was forced away, and I was forced to lower my gaze, watching ashamedly from a distance. The man's partner violating the commandment I had given them. The angelic hosts crying, mercy, mercy. For a time following, all again seemed well. I thought I wouldn't say a thing. I thought she had learned how detestable it was. After a time, again, the angelic host on the verge of rejoicing. Heaven's glance was forced away. Even I was forced to look away. This time both the man and the woman violating my law and this child. Still I resolved to say nothing. Mercy. I took another step backwards. My own pain was unbearable. Will you tell them? I heard voices whisper. Will you tell them what they have done? Not yet, I cried. Yet I took another step backwards. One day I returned to my children. I paced for a while in the trees within the garden. No one could be seen. I waited for my son to return. I knew he would return. Heaven's glance was forced away, but my own heart leapt. I see my children. They had fashioned little coverings for their intimate parts. I contemplated. It was an opportunity for me to speak to the man about what he had done. I called his attention from the shelter of the shade of the tree. They noticed me and drew near. I asked him about the covering. I felt shame, so I fashioned it, he said. Who told you to feel shame? I feigned surprise. What have you done? Have you violated my commandment? Have you eaten of the tree of knowledge of good and evil? The man lowered his head, summoned his partner from behind him. She, the one you made for me, deceived me. Is this true? I asked the woman. I also was deceived. A creature I had never seen before, something like a serpent, deceived me. I contemplated. I spoke. Because you have done this, you must leave the garden where I dwell. You must now work for your survival. All the world's forces shall be against you. Woman, you will experience pain in giving birth. The man and the woman gasped. But the child, he seems well. He is not hurt. I simply wanted to show him that I love him. I looked upon the two sternly, yet with love. The effects of this cannot be seen now, but the effects will perpetuate until the end of things. A new child has all the hope in the universe. We must never contaminate that hope. He may not seem hurt. Not every hurt is visible to the eyes. And I contemplated. I fashioned for them garments of animal skins and sent them away. All of heaven was forced to look away, yet I was forced to watch even closer, standing far back, unable to help, unable to interfere, yet I watch, patient on the day when all will return to me, choosing me for me, laying aside this detestable abomination. I watched in anguish as they stepped away, farther, farther, until they were out of sight. The garden, it's like home now, I heard whispered. Not yet, I cried. And speaking with Pete about this poem in particular, It Feels Like Home, he tells me that while it may not be precisely gospel truth, although there may be in fact a lot of truth there, he wrote it to emphasize the fact that everybody has secret sins. How we interact with the world despite our good intentions even may influence others quite negatively. We cannot know how our actions are affecting other people all the time. He says it's even an illustration of how love can interfere dreadfully with the growth of the identity of a person. Anyways, he wants to convey the message, even if it's not gospel truth. God sees and wants this to stop.